screen visible?
Yes, sir. You are visible, sir.
Screen sharing?
Yes, sir. Your
Is the
screen is.
okay? Thank you, madam. Thank you. This online lecture series for MA English Semester 1, according to the NEP syllabus 2023-24, organized by the Vasantrao Government Institute of Arts and Social Sciences, Nagpur, J.M. Patel College, Bhandara, Rajkumar Keval Ramani Kanya Mahavidyalaya, R.S. Mulde Dharampet College, Nagpur, and Sri Bilzani City College and Mahila Mahavidyalaya, Nagpur, from October 16 to November 10, 2023. I welcome all the students to this online lecture. Today, in this lecture, we are going to discuss the famous magnum opus of Geoffrey Chaucer, the Prologue to the Canterbury Tales. I hope my screen is visible, sir. Hello.
It is visible, yeah, Ajay.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Okay, sir. Is the PPT is moving, sir? I think. Is there any issue?
No.
Okay.
The first slide is visible.
Yeah.
An online lecture on paper 1, unit 1, the prologue to Canterbury Tales.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. So before we go and discuss the prologue to the Canterbury Tale in detail, we have to discuss background topics that are prescribed in the syllabus. We are going to discuss the first background topic, that is the Black Death. It struck Europe in the 14th century. Black Death is also known as bubonic plague. It spread rapidly through the trade routes because the people were coming and going for the purpose of trade. And recently we have witnessed the corona pandemic, and we know all these things. It created a labor shortage because people were suffering a lot, and there was a shortage of people, and which increased wages for the workers. It declined the feudalism, it declined the class structure of that era, because all these things that people died, so many people died, and there was no one to work all these things. Then it fueled a religious fervor and surge in apocalyptic beliefs that before the bubonic plague or Black Death, the people believed in God, believed in Jesus. And when people were suffering from bubonic plague, and they went to the churches, they went to the popes, and they were asking a remedy for it. But at that time, the popes and the church, they were helpless. And that time they were asking a question: where is the God? God is not saving us. Where is the God? We want to see him. Why he is not there to save us? Also had a lasting effects on art and literature, because people experience it, and a few writers were also writing on the theme of death and suffering. It is reflected in the literature written during the Black Death, bubonic plague. In the corner, you can see there is a dress type called gown, which was used by the doctors during the bubonic plague. Recently, we have the upgraded version of this gown, is that what we say PPE kit. So this was the PPE kit during the bubonic plague. The doctors used it. Now we'll move to the second background topic. Second viewer, that is peasant revolt. It was also in the 14th century, marked economic hardship and high taxes, poverty, because King Richard introduced the poll taxes in 1379. And because of that, people were not able to manage their lives. The revolt was triggered by a series of events, including the implementation of the poll taxes and all these things. As well as recently, the bubonic plague suffered a lot. The people were recently witnessed the death, witnessed the bloodshed, and as well as the King Richard II, he implemented the tax. So people were. So is it possible to mute that mic thing? Sadhana, please mute your mic. So there was a revolt against the King Richard II. Then the next topic we are going to discuss is Lollard movement. Lollard movement is a religious and theological movement. The Lollards were critical of the Catholic Church hierarchy and teaching. Those who believe in this movement, they were against the teaching, they were against the principle of the Catholic Church. And this movement was led by John Wycliffe and his companions, Oxford theologians. And they were totally against, they were trying to prove how this teaching of Catholic Church are false. And they believe in translation of Bible into English, because English was a common language during that era. Originally, the Bible was written in Latin, and Latin was known only to the people of the church, like Pope and the clergy. And they used to interpret the Bible according to their benefits. So people won't understand what it is. They believe on what the Pope and the clergy say. So to understand the people, the real meaning of the Bible, the philosophers or the followers of the Lollard movement, they believe to translate Bible into English so that a common man would understand what is really written in the Bible. Their beliefs challenge various practices of Catholic Church. Already we have discussed it. The Lollard movement is seen as an early precursor to the Protestant Reformation. So after when the Bible was translated into English, people came to know the reality and how those popes and the clergies were telling the fake stories to gain the benefit. And it played a crucial role in the religious reform of the medieval England. This was the work of the followers of the Lollard movement. Then we are going to discuss Geoffrey Chaucer, who is the writer of the Canterbury Tales, the period of English literature following the death of Geoffrey Chaucer. Before that, we have to discuss the Barren Age. The topic is Barren Age, and barren, we know the meaning of barren means infertile, not useful. So Barren Age means during that age, not a productive literature. The literature of good quality was not produced during that era, and that is why it is called Barren Age. And it started after the death of Geoffrey Chaucer. There was a perceived decline in the quality and quantity of literary works. So there was not a production of quality work. Political instability, disruption caused by the Wars of Roses. Transition from middle to early modern English was there. During that transition period, the same thing happened. This period laid the foundation for flourishing of English literature in the Renaissance. So in short, we can conclude the meaning of the age, that the barren age means infertile age. So infertile in the context of literature. Then the next that we have to discuss the poet. So the poet, the prose writer, Geoffrey Chaucer, was born in the 14th century. Sorry, John Gower. John Gower is here in the background. John Gower was born in the 14th century English poet, the early poet who wrote extensively in a Middle English, and he wanted to develop Middle English. His multilingual skills contributed to the broader linguistic and cultural milieu. Because he was writing into the Middle English, and he helped to standardize that language. In his writings, especially when we discuss his major work, Confessio Amantis and Vox Clamantis, his writings often carried a moral and philosophical understanding. His poetry served as a source of inspiration for Chaucer. So Chaucer, inspired by the works, by the poems of Gower, John Gower. His major works is Confessio Amantis and Vox Clementis. Then the last poet that we have to discuss in the background topic, and he's William Langland, a 14th century English poet. He wrote in Middle English, like John Gower, and which was an important stage in the evolution of English language, because both the writers, John Gower and William Langland, they were focused on Middle English language. His works reflect the concern and question of his time, providing window into the social and moral issues. These are the recurrent themes in Langland's work, moral and social issues. He uses the elements of irony, symbol, to convey moral and theological lessons. His famous work, Pious Flowman, it is a very famous work which talks about the understanding of the intellectual and cultural pattern milieu of the late Middle Ages in England. So both the writers, John Gower and William Langland, they contributed to develop, to standardize Middle English language. After completing the background topics, in the background we have discussed bubonic plague, that is Black Death, Lollard movements, then peasant revolts. Then we have discussed the two characters, John Gower and William Langland. After completing the background topics, we'll come to the biography, the details of the Geoffrey Chaucer. He was born around 1343 in London, English poet, known as a father of English literature especially because of his work Canterbury Tales, which has portrayed the English society of the era. His diverse career as a courtier, diplomat, civil servant, these different careers, this different designation has given him the understanding of culture and history of his era. He is most celebrated for his magnum opus, the Canterbury Tales. His decision to write in English was very historical, rather than in Latin and French, because we have to understand this thing, that Latin was limited to the people who are related to the religion, like clergies and popes and the people of the church. French language was used by the aristocratic people, and English was the language of the common man. And he decided to write in English. As we know, when we discuss the Romantic literature, we know the preface, which is written by William Wordsworth, and the same thing he has done. He said, I will write in English, I will write for the common people, I will write for the common subject. So he decided to write in English so that the common man should read the literature, common man should understand. He wanted to give access of literature to the common man, so it is more accessible to a broader audience. This period laid the foundation for the flourishing of English literature in the Renaissance. Now we'll move to the prologue that we have to discuss in detail. Canterbury Tales, these are stories, is a cycle of verse and prose. And there is a narrator, there are numerous characters, there is a vivid description of the society. He presents a picture of the medieval English society. His pilgrims, his characters from the Canterbury Tales, drawn from the class structure of feudalism. So all the characters from this tale, they represent their class, they represent their society. The prologue is famous for its portrait of the character of the pilgrims. He uses poetry as a vehicle for the study of man and manners. Before that, we know that poet can use poetry to express their personal emotion, their personal thoughts. But here Chaucer uses poetry as a vehicle to comment on the society, to show the society, Middle English society, and as well as he wanted to focus on the man and manners of the era. His poetry reveals the prejudices during that era, habits of the people, mental and physical traits, routine of particular trade of these classes, how the people are divided into different trades, how they behave according to their classes, how they treat the people from the other classes. This building up a realistic picture of this age. So it is a true picture, we can say, whatever portrayed by the Geoffrey Chaucer is a true picture of the era. In this prologue, the narrator is there in the Tabard Inn. One spring day, we have to discuss the background. We have to discuss the environment, how it started. In the beginning, one spring day, the narrator of the Canterbury Tales rent a room at the Tabard Inn before he recommences his journey to the Canterbury. So he decided to live at a Tabard Inn before he go to his next place. That evening, a group of people arrive at. Please mute your mic, please. That evening, a group of people arrive at the inn where the narrator was staying, all of whom are also going to Canterbury to receive the blessing. All the people were going to Canterbury. And what is there in the Canterbury? The Holy Bristol Matter. There's a cathedral of St. Thomas Becket, calling themselves pilgrims because of their destination, because they were going to a holy place. And that is why those who are going to Canterbury, they call themselves pilgrims. They accept the narrator into their company. The narrator is narrating all these characters. He's talking about what happened at the Tabard Inn. The narrator describes his newfounding traveling companion. There are more than 25 characters in this Canterbury tale. The host at the inn, the Tabard Inn, all the pilgrims are there. They are staying at night. The host is Hairy Belly. Suggests that to make the trip to Canterbury pass more pleasantly, he suggests one thing, that we have to go to the Canterbury together and we have to make this journey enjoyable. And for that, we have to do something. And he decided that each member of the party, each pilgrim, tell two stories on the journey to Canterbury and two more tales on the journey back. So while going to Canterbury, each pilgrim will tell two stories, and while coming back, again, that pilgrim has to tell two stories. The person who tells the best story will be rewarded. Who decided? The host, Harry Belly. Then the host decided to accompany the pilgrims to Canterbury. So the narrator is there, the host Harry Belly is there to start the journey. And before starting this journey, there are numerous characters that Chaucer has introduced to us. The first character that we have to discuss is the knight. The knight, the narrator begins by describing the knight, a noble man who loves chivalry and fights for truth and honor. He is known for chivalry and fight for truth and honor. The knight has traveled through Christian and Heathen territories like Alexandria, Prussia, Russia, Lithuania, Granada, Morocco, Turkey, and has been victorious everywhere and universally praised for his valor. But his exploits are always conducted for love of Christ, not love for glory. In addition to being worthy and brave, says the narrator mentions, the narrator of the Canterbury tale, the knight is modest and meek as a maid. On the one hand, he says he's known for his chivalry, he's strong, he's stern, but on the other hand, he says he's modest and meek as maid. So there is a contradiction. He never speaks ill of anyone. And he wears a modest clothes, and his smell is stained with rust. So his look is like he's came from the war recently. The next character we have discussed is the squire. Squire is a son of knight who is lively and lusty young knight in the training. He is under the training of his father, the knight. The squire has curly hair and, though only for moderate height, is marvelously agile. He has taken part in chivalric expedition in Flanders and northern parts, like his father. The squire says the narrator explains, describes the squire as he wants to find a favor with his lady. His tunic is embroidered with flower, and if he had gathered a meadow and swin it with his clothes. His gown is short with wide sleeves. So he's in an appearance of the squire, his appearance in a knight. The squire is constantly singing and playing the flute. This is the specialty of squire. The squire is known for his flute. He can also joust, dance, draw, and write well. So he's a multi-talented character. The squire is so passionately in love that he sleeps no more than a nightingale. So he has a deep love for his sleep. He is always courteous, humble, and modest. So these are the first two characters introduced by the narrator in the Canterbury Tale. Then we have to discuss the third character, the nun, the prioress. The next character describes the prioress, a nun, and her name is Madame Eglantine. She sings through her nose. What was her specialty? She sings through her nose. She speaks French elegantly, though in an English accent. So she is known for her language. She is able to speak in French. She has excellent table manners. She never lets a morsel of meal fall from her mouth onto her breast, nor does she dip her fingers into the sauce. These are the table manners she is having. She wipes her lips so clean that not a speck of grease remains after the meal. The prioress takes pains to intimate courtly manners and remains dignified at all times. So she is like every time she's taking care of her manners. She's very clean and tidy. The prioress is so charitable. The nun is very charitable and compassionate as well. In the narrator says, he describes that whenever she sees a mouse caught in a trap, when the nun sees a mouse caught in a trap, or what happened? She starts crying. She starts crying after seeing the trap in a car. She weeps. She keeps small dogs with her, feeding them roast meat, milk, and fine white bread. And she weeps of any of them are trampled, or if men beat them, she speaks. The prioress wears a wimple wrapper to show off her well-formed nose, gray eyes. This is the description of the small red mouth. The narrator observes that she has a wide forehead and she is hardly unfurled. Now, after completing these three characters, the knight, squire, and the nun, the prioress, will move to the next character, the very famous character of the tale, the monk. Next, there comes a handsome monk who conducts business outside the monastery. The monastery, a place where the monk lives. When he rides through a country, he rides on horse. Men can hear his bridle jiggling as loud as the chapel bell. This monk is of old, somewhat strict Benedict order. He followed the Benedictine order. but he lets the old ideas pass away to follow new customs. Of course, he believes in benedictory rules, but he's a kind of a modern monk who believes in recent or new ideas or new customs. The monk scoffs at the notion that monks cannot be holy if they go hunting and scorns the text that claims that monk out of his cloister is not worth an oyster. So he is a kind of a different monk who is totally against of the customs of the monk. He believe in hunting. When we discuss a normal monk, we know that they believe in non-violence. But here the monk is different. He believe in violence. He believe in hunting. He believe in drinking. All these things. Then the narrator claims to agree why West away indoors and all these things. He's minutely described this character. The monk is good horseman and rides along with a pack of swift greyhounds. With the horses, he is having greyhounds. His sleeves are trimmed. Now we are talking about his attire. His sleeves are trimmed with expensive squirrel fur, and his hood is fastened with gold pin. He is having a hood, and it is fastened despite with the gold pin into an elaborate knot. His head is bald. To identify him, through this description, you can understand how minutely the narrator has described each and every character. And he says that monk is bald and his face glows as if he had been rubbed with oil. His face is so glowing that if you see that, you feel that his face is rubbed with oil. He is a plump, lively man whose eyes gleam like fire under a cauldron. So this was the description of the monk. Now we'll move to the next character, the friar. The friar is an excellent singer. Before that, we have discussed that Squire is well known for his flute, and here the friar is well known for his singing. He is an excellent singer and knew every innkeeper and barmaid in every town. He disdains lepers and beggars as unworthy. Instead, he deals with rich men with whom he can make a profit. So he is always in contact with the rich people. So somehow he want to make money. He want to extract money from them. Whenever he can make money, there is no man so virtuous. On days when conflicts are resolved, the friar behaves not like a cloistered clerk, but like a master or pope. Donning an expensive cloak and frockery, this friar, whose name is Hubert, the real name of the friar is Hubert, also has ellipse. So he is known by his original name, Hubert, and he's in contact with the rich people. Then there is a next character, clerk of Oxford, a serious and dedicated scholar, right? What we can, a studious man. The clerk is an Oxford University student. Through his appearance, we can conclude, we can estimate that he is a very studious and intellectual person. Thin and dressed in threadbare clothes, very thin and very looking very young. He would rather have books than fine clothes and money. So he is always surrounded with the books. So this is the appearance of the clerk because he is a student of Oxford University. Though he is a philosopher, he has not found the philosopher's stone. What little money he has, he spends on books. Whatever money he receives, whatever money he earns, he spends that money to buy books, to buy something, right, for his studies. He takes his studies very seriously, and whenever he speaks, his speech is full of moral virtue. So he's always believed in studies. He's always spent his money on studies, on buying books. So, the dear students, you must follow the clerk. You must buy the books. You must study well like him. Then the next character, very discussed and very well-known character, widely resourced character, the wife of Bath. So, what is Bath? Bath is a place. Bath is a place. Do not confuse with the word bath. The slightly deaf. Slightly deaf means she is not able to hear properly. The deaf wife of Bath, an excellent seamstress, is always first in line at parish offering. She is beautiful. She is very well cultured, well dressed. If anyone brings alms before her, alms means a kind of a drink. When anyone brings alms before her, she becomes extremely angry. On her way to Sunday Mass, there is a prayer. Mass means prayer. On every Sunday, she wraps her head in scarves that the narrator says must weigh 10 pounds. So when she goes for a mass on Sunday, she wears a wrap on her head, and when the narrator sees that wrap, the cloth she wears on her head, the narrator says it costs around 10 pounds. It is very costly. Her stockings, stockings are as bright red as her face. So here the narrative is comparing her stockings with her face, and he's saying both her face and the stockings are red. The wife of Bath has been married 5 times. She got married 5 times. Not to mention her other company. Officially, she got married for 5 times. And she has gone on three pilgrimages to Jerusalem, another holy place like Canterbury. She has also visited Rome, Cologne, and other foreign pilgrimages sites. So she is worldly, what we call visited Rome character. She is a gap-toothed. There is a gap in her tooth. So, what is the speciality? How to identify for path? She's not able to hear properly. There is a gap in her teeth, gap-toothed. Sits easily on her horse. So she knows how to ride a horse and wears a wimple and overskirt over her broad hips and sharp spurs. Wife of Bath gives excellent advice in matter of love. She is a kind of a expertise. She is a kind of a love guru because already she has a experience of 5 marriage officially. So she gives excellent advices in a matter of love, having a great deal of expertise. So she roamed in different countries. She knows so many people. She met with the different people. She went to Jerusalem thrice. So she has an experience of cities and people. The next character, the miller, who is robust, loud, and bawdy character. The miller is burly workman who always win prizes at wrestling. So he's very strong and he wins prizes at wrestling. He has a head and a beard of thick red hair. On his head and beard, there are red hairs. And hairy wart on his nose. There is a wart, a black spot on his nose. His nostrils and mouth are enormous. His nostrils are enormous. Swill fully हुई है. The miller is a buffoon who told dirty stories and played a bagpipes. Bagpipe is an instrument. He plays bagpipes. He steals corn. A food, yet has a throne of gold. So these are the qualities. This is the description of the miller. Now we have to discuss the next character, the merchant. He is a very successful businessman and easily recognized by his appearance, by his belongings. He is having a belongings of a high cost. The merchant is depicted as a shrewd and successful businessman, easily recognizable by his distinctive clothing. How you can identify merchant? He has a distinctive clothes, very different from the normal people. Costly clothes, including a forked beard. He has a forked beard. A Flemish beaver hat. He has a different hat and boots fastened to his knees. His boots, his shoes fastened to his knees. He is well prepared and organized in his dealings. Like a gentleman, the character of the merchant served as a representation of the bourgeois mercantile class in the medieval England. So the merchant is the perfect example to show a particular class, the class of businessmen. Then, reflecting the social and economic dynamics of the time. So, of course, his appearance show the social class and his belongings, the cost of his clothes and belongings, the cost of his hat and shoes shows the economic structure of the society. It means they are wealthy. They spend money on luxurious things. The next character is the pardoner. Pardoner, through the name only, we can understand something. Pardoner, pardon karna. The pardoner coming straight from the court of Rome. So you can see the characters are from different places. Coming straight from the court of Rome, rides with the summoner. He comes with the summoner, another character. He has thin yellow hair. Now he has a different hair. Recently, we have discussed the character of merchant. He has a who has a red hairs. The miller has red hairs. The pardoner has a yellow hair. The color of his hairs is yellow. That he loops over his shoulders in long, and his hairs are long, elaborate strands, and show it off. He rides bareheaded. He does not wear anything when he rides. His voice is high as goats. So his voice is very high, and his voice is compared with the goat, an animal. The pardoner has a wallet stuffed full of pardons from Rome, as well as many religious trinkets, such as wells, goblets, and decorated crucifixes. He also has a pig's bones in a glass refinery, which he tells poor people are relics from holy saints. So we have discussed that he directly came from the Rome or a Roman court. He uses false flattery to make fool of both priest and lay people. However, the pardoner is good singer and storyteller. The singer is storyteller, and he has a things from the Rome. He has taken from the Roman Church, and he tells people that I can pardon your sins. मैं जो आपके जो sins है वो pardon कर सकता हूँ, उनको ये कर सकता हूँ, आपके जो sins है उनको wash कर सकता हूँ. He has those powers, he has those things from Roman Church. The next, these are the important characters that we have discussed. There are more than 25 characters in the Canterbury Tales. But when we discuss through the point of view of the examination, these are the main important characters in the Canterbury Tales. Now, this question is repeatedly asked in your examination, that describe the art of characterization. Comment on the art of characterization of Geoffrey Chaucer. How Geoffrey Chaucer in his Canterbury Tales described, characterized, mentioned, portrayed the character from the different society, from the different class. So to discuss the art of characterization, Geoffrey Chaucer, the author of Canterbury Tales, was a master of this technique. In this collection of stories, Chaucer skillfully depicted diverse group of pilgrims on a journey to the shrine of Thomas Becket. And we have to discuss, these are the few key elements that he uses in his art of characterization. So what is the first element in the art of characterization? Physical description. Chaucer provided vivid physical description of the pilgrims. Now only we have discussed the characters, we have discussed their appearance, their dresses, their physical appearance. There is a wart on the nose, someone is deaf, someone is having red hair, someone is having yellow hair, someone is not able to walk properly. So this is the vivid description. This is a vivid physical description of the characters. Their clothing, how they clothe, how they attire themselves, and distinctive features. This description help reader create mental images of the character. So, what is the role of the physical description? So, when a reader read these characters, he can create an image of this character in his mind. After creating an image in mind, it is very helpful for the reader to differentiate the characters according to their classes, because there was a feudal system, there was a class structure. So this was the first element used in the art of characterization. The second is dialogue and speech. We have seen that none is able to speak in French in an English accent, but she is able to speak in French. Another character, who is another character? Bach, lady of Bach, wife of Bach. She speaks, she sings through her nose, she uses her nose. Chaucer used the pilgrims' dialogue to reveal their personality. So, what is the function of dialogue in any literary work? So, through the dialogue, we can understand the personality of the character. Of course, in your day-to-day life, you cannot judge a person on the basis of his appearance. So what do we do to judge a person? We stay with him, we communicate with him, and through his dialogues, through his words, through his sentences, we can understand the intention, the personality of the person. Then social background. So according to their class structure, they are using a different language. For example, a character from a lower class is using a slang, is using a very loose language, a very common language. As well as on the other hand, a character like a merchant is using very refined language. A person belong to a religious class is using French language, Latin language. Then there are dialects as well. The way they spoke, the words they used, and their speech pattern offered insight into their character. So dialogue and speech, these elements are used to describe the character. It helps the reader to identify the characters. The next element in the art of characterization is occupation and roles. So according to class structure, again, they have their occupation. They have to play their roles within the boundaries of the class. The characters' occupation and roles in society were crucial for understanding their place in the medieval hierarchy. In the medieval English society, there was a hierarchy, there was a feudal system, and their values. Chaucer painted a broad spectrum of characters from knights. What is the role of knight? What is the occupation? He has to fight in the war, right? If there is a clergy, there is a priest, he has to pray. Like we have a Oxford clerk, he has to study. So according to their occupation, they have to do their jobs. From knights to nobility to clergy, merchants, and summoner is there, pardoner is there. Inner thoughts and emotion. inner thoughts and emotion. So how can we identify inner thoughts? So there would be an inward eye. For Chaucer often provided glimpses into the inner thoughts and emotions of his character. The character mentioned in Canterbury Tales. This allowed readers to understand their motivations, secrets, and personal struggles. So when he describes character, he shows the inner thoughts and emotion. So how can we identify someone's motivation or secrecy or someone's intention? Through their dialogues, through their thoughts, emotions, their personal struggles. So for example, if we are discussing a character of Hamlet, the famous dialogue of Hamlet is what? To be or not to be? That is the question. So it means through this dialogue, we can reflect on the inner thought of the character. That is, it means through this dialogue, we can understand the character is confused. He is not able to take a decision in his life. Emotions. I'll give the same example from the same drama, same Hamlet. There is Ophelia, the beloved of Hamlet. And when Hamlet uncle Claudius, he sees Ophelia, by seeing her condition, he becomes very emotional, Claudius. And he says, when he sees Ophelia, he says that when sorrow comes in a battalion, not in a single species. So through this example, through this word, through this line, we can understand the emotional, the mental state of the character. The same thing happened in the Canterbury Tales. That Geoffrey Chaucer, the narrator, has given the various thoughts, various dialogues in the work that shows the inner intention, the thought and the emotion of the character. The last point in the art of characterization is social interaction. The way character interacted with one another during the pilgrimage revealed their relationship. So how the one character is communicating, is behaving, is helping, is living with the another character, it creates a kind of a picture in front of us. The relationships, the rivalry among the classes shown through the behavior of the character. For example, a character from a lower class, a bourgeois character like Miller, he cannot have a good relation with a character like Merchant. So through their discussion and through their behavior, we can see there is a clear discrimination in the class. Then social dynamics is also seen through this character. Chaucer used this interaction to further illuminate their personality. Chaucer's masterful use of this technique, the art of characterization, allowed him to create a rich tapestry of character. As we discuss, and we have read somewhere, it is a gallery of the picture. It is a gallery of portraits. The Canterbury Tales is described as a gallery of portraits because there are n number of characters, each with their own distinct traits, quirks, and complexities. Though the art of characterization, Chaucer brought the medieval world to life, providing readers with a fascinating and multifaceted portrait of his life. Or he shown the English medieval society through this character. So this was the art of characterization. Now we will discuss the last part of this work, the themes. What are the different themes in the Canterbury Tales that a reader can access, the reader can experience? The first is social critique. There are several themes. I'm going to discuss them mainly 4 and 5. Social critique, of course. Even when we discuss comedy, when we read comedy, comedy is not only meant for entertainment. Comedy is also mean to comment on the social event. Like that, in this work of Canterbury Tales of Geoffrey Chaucer, Chaucer provides a critical portrayal of various social classes and profession within medieval society. So it is a very clear division. He highlights the corruption the pardoner is doing. He's saying that I will wash your sins. But is it real? Of course. So it is a corruption of the church. The same thing happened during the bubonic plague that we were discussing, the Black Death. The people were worshipping God, were worshipping Jesus, and the popes and the clergies, they were taking the donation and money from the people and they were telling them that we are the messenger of the God and will help you, will wash your sins, will protect you on behalf of the God. But when people experienced the Black Death or the bubonic plague, people went to the churches. They were asking to the God, why you're not saving us? They went to the popes and they were asking them, my Lord, my Pope, you're the messenger of the God and we are dying. Where is the God? You're the messenger of the God. And you call the God and you tell him that we are in freedom. But that time, those clergies and those popes were not able to do anything. They closed the doors of the churches. And the people came to know the corruption of the church. Then, corruption, the hypocrisy. Hypocrisy, you all know that you have to show that is not real. And moral failings of both the clergy and laity, already we have discussed. The pilgrims on their journey represent a microcosm of medieval society. And Chaucer uses their story to comment on the moral and social ills of his time. So we can take the example of the wife of Bath. She got married 5 times officially. So it is a kind of a immoral thing in the society, having a multiple affair. Then irony and satire. These are the two weapons. This is the Brahmastras in literature. To critique, to comment on the ills. Chaucer employs irony and satire to critique the shortcomings of the character it presents. The tales often reveal a stark contrast between characters' outward appearance and social role and their true nature. So here, the narrator says there is a contradiction in the nature. So how it is a contradiction? In the beginning, please mute your mic. While we were discussing, Jyoti Thakur, please mute your mic. Jyoti Thakur, please mute your mic. So, irony and satire, the narrator says, the writer shows there is a contradiction in the character. Their outward appearance is different and inside they are different. For example, we'll take the example of the main character, the knight, who is known for his chivalry. He fought in every war. He got the victory everywhere. But on other hand, the narrator describes him as a meek, as a maid. He described him as a meek, as a maid. So there is a contradiction in the characters. Then the tales often reveals a stark contrast. Though humor and wit, Chaucer satirizes the voices. He satirizes the voices and foibles the pilgrims, and by extension, the society they represent. So through the voices of the character, the writer Geoffrey Chaucer is throwing a light on the evils in the society. So he's taking the help of the vices of the character to focus, to highlight the evils, social evils. Then the next is religion and morality. The role of the church is in a question, and its representative is the central theme in the Canterbury. Chaucer criticizes the corruption and moral decay within the church. If there is a corruption, of course, there is a decay, there is a downfall of the morals, while also offering glimpses of genuine piety and religious devotion among some of the characters. Some of the characters are really very religious. They believe in God and they do their jobs. The tension between genuine faith and religious hypocrisy is a recurring. So there is a contradiction, there is a clash, there is a duel between a genuine faith and religious hypocrisy. The fourth one is individual morality. Chaucer explored the moral character and personal ethics of each pilgrim. We were discussing a religious corruption or religious. We can discuss the example of the monk. Actually, we have a central idea. We have a general idea of monk is very a saint-like personality who believes in peace, who lives in jungles, and he do not kill anyone. He do not eat meat and all those. But on the other hand, the character like monk, the character of monk is totally different from the traditional monk. Then the tales they tell often reveal their values, their belief and moral codes, because regular monks, they believe, they follow the Benedict values, Benedict custom, but here the monk is following his own custom. He's modifying it according to the new trend, new custom, shaping light on their individual sense of right and wrong. So it is again a question of morality. What is morality? Your understanding of what is right and what is wrong. The last point in the theme is narrative framing, for which the job. Hello, am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, you are audible.
Yes, sir, now.
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Yeah.
Thank
so the last point is narrative framing. The framework of a storytelling competition on a pilgrimage allows Chaucer, because at the beginning only we have discussed that the host, he decides that each pilgrim who is going to the Canterbury has to tell 2 stories on a road to Canterbury, and while coming back he has to tell 2 more. So there is a kind of a competition of stories among the pilgrimages. And what we are going to get from the stories, that this character, they are going to tell their own stories, they might be telling their own experience. So their stories are a kind of a method, a kind of a way to reflect in their life, to reflect in their society, to reflect in their class. So these stories are used as a way of exploring, analyzing the man, the society and the class. Then art of storytelling and the power of narrative. The theme of storytelling becomes a meta theme as the characters share their own tales within the larger narrative. So these are the few recurrent themes that we have discussed, that we have seen in the Canterbury Tales: social critic, irony and satire, religion and morality, individual and morality, narrative and framing. So this is a very famous work of Geoffrey Chaucer, who portrays, who talks, who shades light on the different characters that he portrayed on the journey to Canterbury to visit the holy shrine of whom? Saint? Of whom? किसके shrine को visit करने जा रहे हैं? Saint Benedict.
Saint Becket.
So yeah, Saint Ben. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. You have made a wonderful presentation on Chaucer Canterbury Tale. The entire lecture was very informative. You covered all the character like knight, squire, pardon, nun, and wife of Bath. You put a realistic picture of society of Chaucer's time in front of us. Thank you, sir. I express my deep sense of gratitude for delivering such a wonderful lecture. I would like to thank all the faculty members for taking the time to be here today. Also, I would like to thank all our